What is going on, wrestling fans? Welcome to the Tapped In Indy Wrestling Podcast. That's right. It is a voice you haven't heard in a couple of weeks, and it is good to be back. Nick, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. We're rolling into dare we say, we actually have a light 4th of July week coming up. So that'll be, I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm taking it as a bonus.
Well, first of all, let me thank Bryce Cannon for more than filling the seat, the shoes, the mic, and just doing a tremendous job. Really do appreciate it, and you guys did not miss a beat while I was gone. And fans, if you don't want to miss anything, you need to become a patron. Patreon.com/tappedoutpod is where you get early access to all the shows. If you are become a free patron, you get that Georgia Wrestling Spotlight. And now at the higher levels, of course, you're getting those tapped out collectibles, which are taking the nation by storm. But that is really the center of the tapped out universe is patreon.com/tapped-out-pod. As I mentioned, I have been gone. I've been at camp. I have camp brain. It just hit me. We were testing and we were getting ready to record. And it was like, I really am just a different level of tired. Uh, just working with kids for 3 straight weeks, but it's good. But the question is, what have I missed in this month that I have been gone? And so I just kind of want to throw some things at you, Nick. 5 things that I caught as I'm scouring the internet, listening to the show. Here's kind of like the 5 big things if a fan's trying to catch up with Georgia wrestling this summer. The first thing is, and I can't even remember where I was when I saw this. Maybe it was you guys sending me the message. Is Southern Fried's running shindig and the power goes out. And the old adage is the show must go on. And not only did the show go on that night, it was a great show, even if the power had been on. Like they made some good chicken salad that night.
You know, it was funny. I've had this conversation with people that were there, fans, wrestlers, even the management at Southern Fried, and I actually kind of made a point to say, dare I say, the power being out made it special. My quote, and like I said this on the show, but I've said it, multiple people as well. I said, 5 years from now, people won't remember look, I'm not disrespecting one promotion. I'm just all of them across the board. Like I made the comment of and wrestling historians, I get it, but like who main evented 7, hardcore hells ago? I'm like, I don't know. Who won the Rumble Jack the second year, not the first year, not the, just random years. You don't remember necessarily always specific things like that down the road. It's like asking who lost in the Super Bowl 4 years ago.
Right.
Or, whatever. But people without question will come back and say, hey, do you remember the shindig with no lights when and it even will bring to the undercard will get more because you'll just remember the show as a whole. You'll remember Bryce Cannon and Chip Day leading off the show, that kind of stuff. It was a huge thing, and I think that's what'll make it. I've praised them a ton about even doing the show,
right?
Because I actually joked with a couple guys that there are a lot of promotions who would have just kind of threw their hands up and been like, man, it just this stinks, and we're just not going to run. We can't do anything about it. But they just didn't. They figured it out.
Yeah. Here's a question. Were they able to record the show, or with the power being out, did that kind of throw all that?
Oh, no, it recorded.
Okay. Well, I need to go back and watch that.
In all fairness, doesn't do it justice. And I'm not saying it doesn't look
Correct.
good and whatever. It was just the vibe, the emotion, the feel in that building with the atmosphere made it what it was. And unfortunately, that's kind of what I try to tell everybody. Like, you had to be there moment.
Yeah, yeah. I know that's something we'll talk about in the mailbag later on, but yeah, just having to be there. I also saw, and again, my phone was blowing up from Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina on this, and that was the absolutely huge crowd that Viral Pro Wrestling drew at their latest show, and then they've announced their next show is going to be headlined by Cedric Alexander and Sean Legacy. Obviously, we're all upset we're not seeing Cedric Alexander on the big stage, but seeing him, he was at Ashe Wrestling, I think, over the weekend, and now coming back to Viral. Just one of the class acts in wrestling, um, and just a phenomenal worker. And Viral drew a huge crowd. Really, I mean, they drew a big crowd with Joe Henry, but they didn't really have an outside name on this card. They did it on their own roster.
Yeah, the biggest name, when we say the biggest name, and the guys understand what we're saying at this point.
Yeah.
It was Sean Legacy and Jackson Drake in a WWE ID match. I mean, Jackson Drake was even sporting his Evolve Championship, for that
Yeah.
show. I mean, that literally was like what you headline, and I look, it was a loaded card. Every title was on the line.
Yeah.
So it fit the like, hey, it was a viral show.
Mm-hmm.
They just happened to have like the attraction was Legacy and Drake, but it's not abnormal for Legacy to be on the card because that's one of his home promotions, so it makes sense.
Right. Yeah, Viral's having a really, really nice 2025 so far. Also saw Lariato drawing their biggest crowd ever. And they've been doing great crowds. They don't run as much. They've also announced they've got the streaming deal. But listen, anytime you bring in Matt Hardy in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, you are going to get a pretty big crowd.
Yeah. The main event was only a triple threat for your title with QT Marshall, Bryce Cannon, and Matt Hardy, and obviously they crowned a new champion there. The TV thing is intriguing because there were details I've gotten since that I wanted. I don't know if you know about. So it is a Roku streaming deal, but that channel actually is available in some markets on Comcast and on DirecTV, like packages as one of the kind of like the local channels that you can find on there. And some of them are like, I believe like the Tennessee, Kentucky markets. There's maybe even some local Georgia markets. And I'm like, okay, that could be potentially a big deal. Like I get the streaming deal and I understand it, that it's on the Roku, and I get all those things. I'm a streamer, guys. I wholeheartedly am. But there's a lot of casual fans out there that are not streamers that are just, can able to flip it. If you can find out that anywhere in your market close to you can just go to their Comcast or their DirecTV channel and watch your show,
Yeah.
I think that could be a huge, huge plus. Streaming deals are nice, and I'm not knocking them, but there's nothing like, hey, I can just flip it with my remote on my cable for, a more casual fan base, because that's probably what they're shooting for.
Right. Well, and if it's a show that's out of market, more than likely that fan is not going to come
Correct.
buy a ticket. But if you can make some advertising dollars or some streaming dollars, then more power to you. There's a promotion in North Carolina. I'm not going to call them out. I'm kind of calling them out, but I won't name names. And every poster they've had, for the 5 or 6 years I followed them, it always says live TV taping. And I don't even know if they even put their shows on YouTube. I know they're not on TV. I know they're not. I know they don't have I don't even think they have a streaming deal. They just put live TV taping on their posters. And I've even messaged them, like, well, all right, where is this? Where can I watch this? And nothing. But this is the legitimate deal. Roku is legitimate platform.
Hmm.
I'm curious if this means if Larry Otto's gonna book some more shows.
Yes, that was the other part I wanted to get to. They are going to, from what I've been told, they are going to run more frequently to fill that content as well. So I don't know like how much of a commitment they're going to get to as far as like monthly, etc. But I think, in my opinion, if you're doing TV, that's about where you're going to have to end up to fill. TV is you're going to have to run monthly at minimum.
Right. Right. Another thing has just been a lot of he said in Georgia wrestling. A lot of I think we as fans sometimes we like to hear the dirt. We like to hear kind of what happened behind the scenes. And then you get conflicting stories of, well, this happened. Oh, this actually happened. And it's for the most part, it's entertaining and but it's also what are we doing? You know, we're not fighting over $1 million companies, you know. Um
Usually, it's broken hearts, broken dreams, and broken promises. That's. I always come down to that. That's usually what it is. It is, and and I've always look at. I've said this time and time again because I had a conversation with somebody who was like, "Yeah, man, we want the dirt. We want the dirt." And I'm like, "Do you though?"
yeah, right.
It's a lot easier for me to walk into a locker room, tell you the bad, tell you that you're negative, whatever I think, because it's just my opinion, doesn't
Right.
matter.
Right.
And does it really do anybody any good? Because actually, here's my blunt truth. A lot of times it just looks like seventh grade, middle school drama between, a couple that broke up. And I just told somebody like, it's just not what we do. I just think it does more harm than good in the overall schemes. And I'm not,
I
yeah.
I read a book a few years ago um called Extreme Ownership. It's by Jocko Wilco's the guy that wrote it. He was in the military. And the premise of this book is if you're in charge, you accept responsibility. And it has really transformed just kind of how I deal with people sometimes. Like I try not to throw shade. I try not to I just okay, my bad. I take full you just take full responsibility. And it feels to me like you had a situation where a promotion wasn't drawing well or as well as they wanted to, and now you're just hearing the gazillion reasons as to why that happened. And no one is stepping up to say, you know what? Buck stops here. My fault. My bad. You know.
Uh, Let me put it to you this way. That's not what I've heard. I have heard those. I have heard that statement. The difference is the masses haven't, and I don't care. You know me, my whole
Correct.
take is ignore it, move on.
Yeah.
Don't care. I don't care. A long time ago, it's because anything that's within our control, that's my fault. I tell people that all the time on the podcast.
Yeah.
Anything that goes wrong, right, wrong, or different, it's my fault. Why? Because it's the
Right.
podcast.
Yeah.
But when people from the outside come in, listen. I had one of the best lines I've had in a long time. Somebody was saying something to me probably a week or two ago. I looked at them and said, "Thank you for letting me know you don't listen to the show because what you just said makes no sense based on X, Y, Z. So your opinion means that much to me right now. About does that make sense? Like
Right.
I'm like
Right.
if you're not there and you're not in the know and you're just taking like this person's word for it, I just don't care what you think. And I wish more people in wrestling were that way. Just take care of you and just focus on you. And but anyway, I'm gonna move on because I I don't like this stuff that much anyway. So
No. The final thing, and I was very. I mean, this is a huge event coming up. Maybe one of the biggest in Georgia recent history. The One Fall Wrestling Summer Stage show at Center Stage happening July 25th. And I remember when we got the date, I was like, "Oh, I'm traveling for work that day and won't be able to be there." But the build for like we first heard this announcement in the last month, and then even as we've been even today, there's been more announcements and more announcements. You got the MJF meet and greet. This show just continues to be built as the event of the summer in Georgia, and there's a lot more announcements to come. But one fall is, I think one fall is just they are not limited by the box of Georgia wrestling or Georgia wrestling
No,
thinking, and so
I'm going to
I,
use a Heathism.
okay,
They play by a whole other set of rules.
yes,
They
they're
don't
just
yeah. They don't
that.
follow the typical rules. They just play. They do what they do, and they do it extremely well.
And I think this is, and when you do that, people are going to take shots. People are going to, we've heard people say, well, why are they running center stage and da 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 da. They're not going to sell this many tickets. Blah blah blah. And you just got, if you're going to play by your own rules, and I know QT and those guys are, they're just they're not affected by all of that.
Let me ask you this, because you have not been on since we haven't really had this in-depth question, and I said something to somebody that was they were trying to, hey, well, blah blah blah, or they've got this, whatever. You know how people are, like you said, everybody's gonna try to take their shots, whatever. I'm like, if you are, if you're a Georgia promoter, Georgia wrestler, Georgia booker, Georgia wrestling, independent Georgia wrestling fan, without question, you should want this to be a success.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's what it does: it makes Georgia look more. I mean, like, it gives more importance to Georgia across the nation. That they're like, hey, I I get it, folks. There are going to be, because a lot of people are like, oh, or they're bringing in MJF. MJF ain't wrestling, folks. So there's number
Yeah.
one. He's doing a VIP meeting. He ain't wrestling. Oh, they're bringing these other names in. Okay, but guess what? They do that on a regular basis at One Fall. There ain't
Yes.
nobody on that card that's not a normal person that you could see on a given week typically at a, I haven't seen anyone advertise that I've never seen on a One Fall show.
Right. Correct.
Let me put it to you that way. And the reason you want to be successful, how cool would it be if this was an annual event?
Yes.
That every summer we build to a big show in the center stage. And if you're just, oh, I had to bite my tongue on what language there for a minute. If you're complaining about that, like, hey, well, I want, work their shows. It ain't that hard.
No.
Go
No.
work the McDonough show. Go work the Watkinsville show. They were coming. They announced that. Okay, yeah, it's a fit. They've announced their Gainesville location. I have
Yeah.
trouble keeping up where they've announced, so I don't want to throw something out there. They run Lawrenceville. They run Stone Mountain. They're running. I mean, all over. It's not like there's not a show that they run that's not at least close to you.
Yeah. And how do I say this? I think they're doing all this the right way. And they're guys, when these guys, when one fall guys, when these fat guys show up at another show, they're carrying boards, they're helping, they're moving chairs. They're not just sitting in your locker room eating all your food, taking up space, basically uninvited. Uh Everyone on that summer stage show has earned that spot. And I'm excited for the young talents who are going to be on that show, who've worked hard, paid their dues, and now they're going to kind of get this showcase.
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited for that. Speaking of one fall, we'll talk more in depth about this on this week's Georgia Wrestling Spotlight. In a weekend where everybody seems to be taking the weekend off because of the 4th, they're running 2 shows on Saturday, July the 5th. This is not the first time they've done this. Running 2 events at the same time, 2 different locations. And as we were looking at the cards, they are doing this. They have a loaded roster that they're able to do this. And my question, Nick, is could any other promotion pull this off without pulling in a lot of outside guys that they don't normally use?
Mm-mm. Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm in my head. I'm trying to think of, who could. by the definition of your regulars, I think that answer is no. Could you
Right.
just pull in guys and do it? Sure. Could you
Right.
pull in guys that like, oh, this guy used to work for us,
Right.
so but I currently on your existing roster? No, I just don't think. I just think the the talent pool there is so deep, and it's one of the things we've talked about them for, and I get it. People are like, oh, you talk about them a lot. Yeah, there's a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, their talent pool is so deep across the board. And it's look, they've got some tools that they have some tools in their toolbox nobody else has.
Right.
They have some massive advantages. Don't knock them for the advantages they have. Because here's the last time I checked, every promotion's bragging on the thing they do well because of advantages they have.
That's
Southern
right.
Honor, brags about their production level. Well, yeah, you seen who handles their production stuff?
Right.
Guys done stuff that's been on TV that you've seen. Yeah, they're going to brag about what they do best because they have those advantages. Guys that are, oh, we do this or we do that. Like that's what you should do. You should take advantage of the things that you have, some perks in or whatever. That's just my take. But again, just the massive. What does this also say about the company when their pool is that big because everybody wants to work there?
I,
And if you don't, I question you.
I think we're in a season of Georgia wrestling where you kind of have to decide if you're a wrestler, you got to decide, all right, I'm okay doing what I'm doing. I'm very content. I'm happy. Or are you looking at the landscape, the changing landscape, and are you okay? I'm going to have to give up this promotion to go work for this promotion, and I'm going to have to do things that maybe I haven't done before. I'm gonna have to go help set up a ring. I'm gonna have to understand I'm not too big for that. I'm not too whatever for that.
But
And
let me tell you this. I had a conversation with somebody, and literally what you just said was my thing to them. So, Alan Angels, Adam Priest, the Vari Moraleses, the Jack Jamesons, I just started rattling off names. I'm like, you're too good to do it. They can do it, but you're too good. I get it. Because and that I think they realize the sarcasm when you throw it in there, and it's like,
right,
oh, that's right, I forgot Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, QT works. I get it. Now QT's a little different because it's his
yeah,
thing, but like Billy Gunn rolls up in there and wrestles. I'm like, but you can't go do it. I get it. Yeah, I understand.
it's a very interesting.
I'm gonna hit the pause button literally
Yeah,
as we were recording here. Uh, you were talking about stories leading up to it.
mm-hmm.
It was just announced that Sid Ellington and Karen Gray, who have been feuding for what feels like a year plus, coffin match at SummerStage.
Oh my goodness, we saw them in an I Quit match. Maybe that
Yes.
was the show we were on. And oh my goodness, coffin match. That's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah. So that's
Uh,
kind of cool. So
that and see, that's the
I'm
yeah.
sorry. So here's where we stand as of today. Sid Ellington and Kieran Gray in a coffin match. They are going to crown their first women's world champion, their first women's champion.
Uh huh.
Jay Lethal is taking on Adam Priest.
Oh my.
The Frat House is taking on QT Marshall and the Gun Club, which includes Billy. And of course, Drago and Brady currently is where we sit as the championship match. We'll get more into that. If you're not a member of the Patreon, you should be to watch the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight because there's something that may throw a monkey wrench into this match. And of course, Tony Schiavone, Harley Cameron, MJF, all these guys are coming for the meet and greet stuff as well.
Yeah, yeah. If you can go to that, why haven't you got your ticket yet for that? Um, yeah, that again, it's young guys getting an opportunity to do something they wouldn't get an opportunity at other places, which leads us to a very special edition this week of the Vari Morales Underrated, Underappreciated. This week is the Young Guns edition We're talking about One Fall Wrestling. We've talked about Nightmare Factory Kids. And we wanted to look at, I think we tried to go 25 and younger, 25, 26 and
We
younger.
we did we tried, but some of the ages usually, yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. We haven't seen the driver's licenses of all of these talents. Let's talk with a young man who we've been high on since, I mean, I think we saw him in his fourth or fifth match. He recently became the Nightmare Factory champion, and that is Mike Cunningham. He's also in the main men tag team, which we're big fans. Mike Cunningham has, to me, when I think of somebody having it, one thing Mike Cunningham has that I've always appreciated, there's a humility there's a confidence, but there's also a not a fake humility, but a real humility to him.
Listen, I behind the scenes, pulling the curtain back, calling it for whatever you want to. Everybody knows. Look, I'm a huge fan of the kid. I think he has it. Whatever it is, he has it. I had a promoter call me because I had talked to a couple promoters and about him, and I had another one hit me up this past week, and I'm like, absolutely, man, but bring him in. Because the guy was like, he's got the look. He looks like he's full of energy. He's young. I mean, he's believable, like all the above. And I'm like, yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you just want to have somebody who's the fun cowboy, I mean, there you go. Insert Cunningham. So I was like, and the great thing about it is if you need, the heels jump him, he's got a partner he can bring in to back him up. So I'm like, I can't speak highly enough of the kid, and super proud of him. I've had a chance obviously to talk to him about it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was without question was no doubt that this kid was going on our list when we started this list.
And I think part of our earlier criticism of some people in Georgia is we know Mike's story. Moving halfway across the country, basically,
No, he moved
really,
across the country. He's from California, dude. He across the country.
Paying the dues, basically saying, I'm going to make a go of this. And moving across the country, and we can't get some people to drive 10 minutes to work a different show. So kudos to Mike Cunningham. This is next one's another young man we've been very high on for a lot of reasons, and that is Christian Taylor. Christian Taylor, Phil Bunyan in some places, is really starting to kind of come into his own. Has been given some really good opportunities at different promotions, but continues to learn, continues to grow, and continues to pay his dues to climb the ladder.
Why Christian Taylor's on this list is because of another reason for me. He has earned, no, and I won't say the words I used there. He has earned a reputation across Georgia of a guy who does, what we always say. I don't say it. The old timers tell me this is what you should do, so I'm just taking their word for it.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up. He's putting chairs out. He's putting rings up. He's tearing rings down. Oh, I don't know. He was on an AWE card. Well, let me phrase that. Phil Bunyan was in a match, and then later in the night, he helped put the cage up for the main event.
Yeah.
How many guys would go, I'm on the card. I don't do that. Nope. He's out there putting the cage up. Christian Taylor was, not Phil Bunyan, but Christian Taylor was out there putting the cage up. He's at your bullpens. He's at your Southern Extreme. He's at he's starting literally to be everywhere because he's willing to do what you said. Go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He's at Southern Fried. He's at SCA still some. He's still it's like do. And I always tell people, like, if you impress a Gary Lamb and a Dylan Freimeyer to earn a spot, you know what I mean? I'm like, you're doing something right. Same at Southern Fried. Same at if Bull Buchanan sees it in you. If that's what I tell people. Like, this is why this kid makes the list. And look, I made a push last year. I felt like he probably should have been, not to take whatever. He was my choice for Rookie of the Year.
Yes.
And it was like, I think this year kind of shows why I thought that maybe. So I
Yes.
feel a little vindicated, validate, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's why he's on the list.
Yes. Uh, this next one is a young man who I hope, as we get into the second half of 2025, starts getting more opportunities in more places, and that is JT Paradox. He's been there in bullpen, having an impact, and I think it's time for the rest of Georgia to kind of open their eyes. This kid is young. He's got good size, um, very teachable, and I'm excited to see kind of where he goes second half of the year.
Yeah, he made a trip over to Southern Fried quietly. Look, I don't know. Well, I guess I'm gonna throw it out there. Quietly, look, it's really cool when you see the respect of a David Manders and a Bull Buchanan. They don't have a working relationship in the true what we
Mm-hmm.
think, but I love that Southern Fried kind of opens their doors. I mean, look, Matt Griffin coming in and having the run with Manders, but at Shindig you have a lot of the bullpen kids, guys, whatever you want to call it, JT Paradox, etc. There, I think that's kind of your cross connection, maybe how guys are going to start to cross the state a little bit. I think there's going to be a pathway between bullpen maybe and Southern Fried, it seems, where there's going to be some, hey, like give these kids a shot, when they're not working the same days they typically don't, but if they get a chance. But JT Paradox, I think he's 19.
Oh wow, yeah.
Super young. He's already captured gold there in bullpen. And for me, the ringing endorsement for somebody like a JT Paradox this early in the game, and why he probably deserves it. If a Bull Buchanan sees something in you, he's been there. He's been to the big show. He's been to the dance, whatever you want to call it. If he sees something in you, that's something that's like people like a lot of times go. Sometimes I have to take the word of somebody who knows.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start looking at it and you go like, oh yeah, boom, 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 and you can start paying a little bit of closer attention and you can see it. And I think that's probably what JT Paradox's situation is more people across the state need to look at it and go, got it. Especially when you're talking about somebody who's got that size and the strength and the power, and he's that young. It's somebody you can invest in a little bit longer term, in my opinion.
Yes, yes. Next is three guys who have really kind of earned our respect, and we've seen them in different places. They're starting to win titles in different places, and that's Tommy Mars, Jimmy Wild, and Nikki Eight, otherwise known as the Superstars. Um, Jimmy Wild especially has shown kind of like that singles ability. He's been in a variety of tag teams, but now kind of with the superstars and doing different things in Georgia. Again, they just continue to improve. They have a gimmick and a look that they're completely bought into that is different and unique than everybody else. And they're just really fun to watch.
Yeah, look, again, thoughts out to Nikki Eight. He's still recovering. We just felt like he deserved because he helped elevate them to this point.
Yes.
Make sure we had him on this list. Kudos to Jimmy Wild for just stepping in and kind of assuming that role in a lot of places. And you're right, Jimmy's got a lot of singles action that you see him, across the board, obviously all over the state. Tommy is not. He's even, Tommy's traveling outside of state, getting some singles work. He's put on a lot of muscle. He's actually looking really jacked lately. But I think right now one of their strengths is as a team. I think because it's part of my same thing I said to the main men when I was talking to Sebastian and Mike. Tag team wrestling, I think, needs that shot in the arm. It needs some youth and some energy and just more teams in general so we can have some great competition because we start at times to feel like it's the same guy. It's no knock on those guys. They're like, but like it's the same teams in a lot of places because there just aren't many true teams.
Right.
And I think these guys, by the way, it's as the heel team, when a Nikki 8 returns, now you've got 3, so they're always going to kind of have the numbers game. So, but for me, them being champions already says a lot, especially at a large promotion like a Viral, who we put up there at right up there at the top of the promotions in Georgia,
Right.
which is so. But yeah, I think it's if you're going to do tag teams, I think there's a youth movement that you can start pulling from, and say so that way you can kind of get a shot of fresh blood, if you will, into your tag team scene.
I'm ready for the superstars to use the free bird rule. We haven't seen that a lot. I would love to see that in different promotions. And again, just really enjoy watching these young guys work. This last one on the list, and again, please save your cards and letters. We know we did not name everybody that probably deserved this, but this guy, hard worker, excellent fundamentals, not flashy, great utility player. Can go if you need to be a heel tonight. He can be a heel. He can be a babyface. We've seen him cheered. We've seen him booed. Just a super guy who loves the business, and that is Michael Solar. Uh, just a guy who is a lot of fun to be around, and he's always helping set up the ring. He's always he is basically there to serve the show and the fans to make it the best possible. And I appreciate his work ethic. And
Can I ask you something? Because I'm
yeah,
going to take criticism from what I'm about to say, and I don't even know if he's going to like it, but I think this is the comparison. The Miz.
mm,
It's like, hey, we need you in the main event tonight. We need you to wrestle this guy to get him over. Or, hey, we need you to go in there and give this guy a really good match. Hey, we need you to be the heel tonight. We need you, whatever. We need you to be babyface for a while here. We need you to. But here's the thing Miz made a career out of what do you need me to do?
yeah,
And Michael Solar is a guy who walks in your locker room and is like, what do you need from me?
yeah.
And it's like, we need you to go out there and have a good match. Okay, cool. I can do that. He's only trained by Gresham, right? So it's like you think he can't wrestle, right? I know that myth was out there, by the way, for a while, and it's like, oh, then you see him wrestling, you're like, oh, he can wrestle,
Yes.
like really good, by the way. But then it's like, hey, we need you to go out there and have a little fun, and listen, we need a comedy spot. We need to lighten it up from the serious match we just had. Okay, I can do that too. So that's my WWE comparison is The Miz.
No, I think that's an excellent comparison. The Miz has had a very long career, probably a longer career than many expected, because if they said, "Hey, we need you to jump on a plane at 5 a.m. and go be on this news station," he just did it. And I think you have to have this kind of can do, will do attitude. And here's the thing that the main thing that would separate Solar from others is his attitude. And the attitude is I don't know, like he doesn't have a bone in his body that says that's not going to work for me, brother.
Right.
And let me tell you, unless anyone who is in independent wrestling who says that's not going to work for me. Now, listen, if they're asking you to do something super dangerous
Yeah.
or super.
Hold on. There was one scenario where in hindsight I actually did tell the wrestler I probably would have said no to that.
Right. I think there are
Exceptions. There are exceptions.
There are definitely exceptions. So this is not a blanket statement. I do I, I think there's a way to ask questions
Mm-hmm.
about booking. Hey, well, what do you but but it's not from a place of, well, this is going to make me like it's the heel's job to look stupid sometimes.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. So, like going back to Solar to ask that, there's also something infectious about the attitude of, guys are just like, oh, I can't lose, I can't get beat, I can't tap out, whatever. And there's the guy that's in the locker room that like it's that locker room specifically, obviously I don't want to say it again because everybody goes, but Solar's one of the epitomes of just like, again, when we say, what do you need from me? Oh, tonight you're getting beat by this guy. It's a camp guy. Like, you could sit there and go like, why am I losing to this guy?
Right.
Nope. Just like, okay, I'm going to go out there, make him look good, put him over, blah, blah, blah. Good, I got you. Those things, by the way, in case you're not aware, those guys typically get rewarded at some point with something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. Very much so. And I think we're getting to the point where we're going to start seeing some of that payback happening, and that's going to be really exciting. Another thing that's really exciting is this week's mailbag. We've got several questions from fans all across the state. If you have a question for the Tapped Out or the Tapped In Wrestling podcast, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. If you're a patron, then you're guaranteed pretty much that you're guaranteed that your question is going to get asked at some point. But let's jump into the mailbag. Sam from McDonough, Georgia asks, what's a storyline or feud in Georgia that needs a blow-off match at a summer show?
I have one. Do you have one real quick? Or do you, because I have one I think needs to.
Here's the thing that I would say is if we've only got about 6 weeks of summer left, so if it hasn't already been planned, it may not get worked in. But what's yours?
I think going into the summer of August, the month of August, I think the Apocalypse story at SCA.
Yes.
It's probably ready to, based on the events that have happened in the last week, which if you catch the Georgia Spotlight, we'll get into that a little bit. I think that probably heads right into the August-ish range that I could see that being its blow up.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to happen. We already saw kind of the big match at Shindig, and that the Crusade and Southern Fried that's still ongoing. I think SummerStage. If it's Drago and Booker, I mean Booker's been on the chase for that title for well over a month now, really since the Drago won the title. We mentioned earlier Sid and Kyron. That feud's been going on for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe this leads to another question. Should promotions, we've talked about before, staggering your storylines where they're not kind of all ending and starting at the same time. But should promotions always have like a big plan that something big's going to happen in the summer?
I mean, listen, Shindig's always in the summer. It's June. It's a June show, but it's at the beginning. It's not like the big thing, during the summer. So your book in Georgia, boy, this is a long-winded answer for us. The summer kind of is bookend, and I know we're not talking the calendar summer. We're just saying the metaphorical summer is bookend by two of the bigger shows. And I know Viral's got a big one that they run, as well. But I always think of, in Homer me, right? Shindig kind of kicks off the summer. It's after school, but right there at the beginning. And then the Rumble Jack's usually in August. That's kind of kicking off. Wrestling is over. The summer of wrestling is over because the kids are back in school and everything. So I always associate summer with the kids being in and out of school more than I do the calendar, like, hey, it's summer officially or whatever.
Right.
So you're kind of bookend there. So you kind of do, but here's the thing. Shindig is kind of wrapping up most of your stories there. Rumblejack is like the kickoff almost for the next wave of stories, because then you're heading into the Still Here, et cetera, like that's all kind of so. But that's, I'm trying to think of other stories that are out there right now, that are ready to be blown off. Those are just the big ones. I know there are more, but that's just the one that jumps off the page for me. You could, here's the thing: a lot of people might throw out Coastal Empire, Dax Anthony, and Bryce Cannon.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of meat on that bone still.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a massive feud for especially that area, but across Georgia, I just think there's too much meat on the bone to blow that thing off right now.
No, I agree. I think that's the thing is I think we have definitely seen this in the last 2 years. You got to get your timing right. I think some storylines have overstayed their welcome, and some storylines, like you just said, had a little more meat on the bone. So that's very interesting. So thanks, Sam, for the question. Cam from Covington asked if we had a Georgia Wrestling All Star game, who is starting the main event for you?
Well, I guess I'm going to stick to my guns on this one and say I'm going to start. I got to figure. I'm going to make a shirt and put it up on our pro wrestling t-shirts. If Carly Bravo counts as a Georgia wrestler, he's the best wrestler in Georgia, so he's gonna be in your main, right? But that's the debate of does he count because he's a nationally signed talent,
Right.
It is what it is. Can I throw a left field curve at you?
Please.
Can I get the rematch of Carly Bravo and Vari Morales?
Man, I had three names in my mind, and you've just thrown two names that I was like, I feel bad for not thinking of those. I mean, my three names that, well, I guess it was two because I was thinking Carly, and I was thinking Bryce Cannon, and I was thinking Brady Booker. I mean, there's a lot of great talent in Georgia right now.
I was trying to keep it to two, but I mean, if you're sitting there and you start like going like, "Hey, can we make it a triple threat? Can we make it a four-way?" Blah 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 stuff like that. Then then it's like, all right, well, then you can get super creative with it. But I just think, for my personal taste, for what that is, I think I haven't seen that match in over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like one-on-one, those two. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I want, like, how about this one? Let's really shake it up. I get it. It's an all-star game, so whatever. Hell freezes over to Nick books Carly Bravo versus Vari Morales for the AWE Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment Championship. I don't even have the power to book that match, by the way. I don't know what kind of favors you got to call in for that one. But how about that one? Because put stakes on it too.
Sign me up. Sign me up. I think that would be very, very, very good.
By the way, ask Nick about Hell Freezes Over 2 off the air.
Oh my. That might be a patron exclusive right there. Delaney from Flowery Branch asks, which venue in Georgia brings the most consistent energy from bell to bell? I could think of a couple that don't.
Is it easier to think of don't than does?
Well, no, I mean Southern Fried is always consistent.
Yeah, that's the one that rings a bell just because it's loud. They will do some magic even when the power's working. They'll sometimes drop some of the lights and do some crazy things. And those fans I think it really massively helps to the acoustics in that building make it so loud. There's some buildings. Look, the Action build, Southern Honor. It's loud, but people like, oh, it's not as loud. The building's built to absorb sound. It's a church, and they do concerts, and they do. So it's like it's not apples to apples, but the vibe sometimes there because of the dark and the lighting, it works. There's lots of those types of things, but they're just. If you ask me off the top of my head, Delaney, I would just say the Southern Fried, the 405 Community Court, the Boys and Girls Club. It's just super loud and the acoustics and everything, and the way those fans get into it.
I still miss the Tannery Row Ale House.
Oh, I'm with you, dude.
That was such a good venue, man. Here's one you may have answered a little earlier. Natalie from Cornelia writes, what's the biggest you had to be there moment from the last 6 months of Georgia indie shows? Got to be Shindig, right?
It was. And it's not saying it was, it was the moment if you weren't there, I jokingly said to somebody like, you know, those sporting events that like 100,000 people say they were there, but like the building only holds like 42,000 or something like that.
Right.
I jokingly said that, you know, Shindig in the Dark, as I've affectionately come to call it, will be one of those events. Like I know like how many people we were told were there, but like there'll be 1,000 people telling you they were there that night when you know, and it's like, I got you, you know, but you because you did, you just, I honestly do think like I've seen the video, it looks cool, whatever, but it doesn't. It was so different, Heath, that I was on the bleachers front row like we always sit. I got up and I moved to the wall
Oh,
because I wanted everything in front of me because I wanted to see like the fans. I wanted to
yeah.
see everything in front of me
Yeah.
as it was going on, and it was bananas. And it was like, yeah, I was like, that was an event I'm so glad that we went to.
Tony from Savannah writes, when's the last time a wrestler surprised you with how much they'd grown in just a few months? Um, I as I was reading the question, I thought of a wrestler, but it wasn't about how much they'd grown. It's about how much they've regressed over the last couple of months.
Well,
And I
that's
would
not the
say,
question. Yeah, that's not
right,
the
right, right,
question.
right. Yeah, I don't want to get into that. Um, I think those, everybody we had on the underrated, we've seen grow. I mean, Mike Cunningham. If you told me at the beginning of the year Mike Cunningham would be a singles champion,
The Nightmare Factory champion.
right? I'd have been like, what? I mean, not that he wasn't capable of it. His pace just got accelerated this
Can
year.
I? Can I? I want to add. This is off the. I'm going to tangent for a second. One of the things that I'm so. One of the things that impresses me a lot about the Mike Cunninghams, the Christian Taylors, the Mike, a lot of those guys on that list that we talked about, self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use Christian for a specific example because I know he won't mind me saying this. Like to sit there and go like, "Hey, we praise everything," because I was tangent off of a tangent. I told somebody the other day when I judge wrestlers, I judge them based on where not even where they should be, but based on how long you're in the business. So if you're in the business
Mm-hmm.
6 months, I can still sit there and be honest with you and say, like, hey, I really like you. I think you're in a good place. This is, but then but then at the same time, but you're still like I had a wrestler tell me, this wasn't Christian, it was another person saying, hey, I'm really green. I've only been doing this for 6 months. But what did I do well? What did I not do well? Et cetera, et cetera. Christian Taylor, as much as we sit there like, hey, by the way, he is one half of the GPW Tag Team Champions,
Mm-hmm.
but he'll be the first one to tell you I have so much to learn.
Yep.
I'm still young. I still every match is a learning opportunity for him. There's no point as he's sitting there in the room saying, well, I'm better than this guy. I'm better than this. Like he's again self-awareness, and that's a huge thing. So when we talk about growing in a few months, it's watching somebody like that go from he was wrestling here and here
Mm-hmm.
to now he's grown and he's wrestling here. So he would probably be my vote for if you were asking me like right now,
Right.
like who that guy would be. I would probably say him, but Mike's a heck of a choice too because again, like you said, we were praising him and he was like, oh, that was like my 5th match or my 9th match or something, whatever. And we were like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But to see how far he's come, even just the last show that I saw him on, I was like, I saw him in the ring looking like he belonged in Watkinsville with QT.
Yeah.
Like that's a massive. Now says a lot about QT, but it also says a lot about Mike. Because here's the thing: a lot of guys can be swallowed up by the moment.
Right.
But he's been in the ring with Billy Gunn. He's been in the ring with this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy. The moment's not too big, and I think maybe is that the new thing for me? Is the moment not too big for somebody when they're finally given an opportunity? They don't just shrink, because we talk about it in sports all the time. You see basketball players get out there and the pressure's on. It's game 7, and they just shrink.
Yes.
These guys don't do that. Is that that's an off the air? Okay, I'm going to have a conversation with you. Go ahead.
Zach from Valdosta. What promotion is on deck to break into the top tier in Georgia?
So I'm guessing this stems from last we did the Power Five, we did promotions only,
Mm-hmm.
and look, having Bryce on, we did something me and you never do on the Power Five. We did the Power Five, and then I said, hey, what's the next 5 promotions? Like what's 6 through 10, and then I even went out of my way to point out like, hey, these are the reasons I say they're just outside of the top 5. And I kind of went through each one. And some of them are really, really simple. I still think some of my answers are easy. I said viral. The only reason they're not probably in my top 5 is they only run 6 times a year.
Yeah.
Monster crowds, whatever. I'm like, okay, by that same argument, then you would say Mucha Lucha belonged in there when they were running regularly. Or, by the way, Lariata. You said if they go to running more, they're right there in the mix.
Right.
And then, obviously Bryce brought up Coastal. And I said, the stories are fantastic. You're selling out your building. Everything. Yeah, I 100% agree. Is it time for them to get a bigger building? Had this conversation with everybody involved. So it was a full transparency conversation. And it was like, hey, I don't blame you for leaving, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You're packing the house, standing room only, whatever. Same conversation I had with another promotion. Then that means maybe your ticket prices need to be more. So either you raise the ticket prices or you get a bigger building.
Yeah, I mean, it's this is what's crazy about the whole building thing. In 2024, January, in 2024, we went from saying IWE needed to move to a bigger venue to they were out of business by the end of the year.
Yeah. By their choice.
Crazy thing.
We're going to be fair, but by their choice, but yes.
Right. But it's such a crazy thing. And then the other promotions that have gone into that same building have not come anywhere close to filling it up.
Yeah.
So I feel like back to the question, like who's on deck? I definitely think Coastal. I definitely think Viral's already always right there. I mean, my only criticism of Viral has been got to run more. If you got some promotions running 52 weeks a year, you got to do more than 6. And that leads to this final question. They go hand in hand. Miles from Royston. How do y'all decide who makes the Power 5 for promotions? Have we ever argued about it? I think we look at crowds. Are your crowds good? Is your wrestling good? Does what you do influence what other promotions do? Are people talking about you? What's the perception among insiders? I think there's a lot of factors.
People aren't maybe aware of this. I ask a lot. One of the things that it factors into my, choices, I ask wrestlers a lot. Where would you want to work? Like, where do you want to work? Mm-hmm. And the reason that is that says everything, because I ask them, I go, where do you want to work and why? And the why is because, I like this guy. That answer is completely discarded out of the thing. When people say, I want to work here, and by the way, when we discussed the Power 5, that a lot of this came up. I want to work Southern Honor because I get really good edited, produced matches that I can show people, etc., or that's out there, content for me to use, blah, blah, blah. I want to work Action because of the exposure that I get on IWTV. It's an easier way for me to say to other promotions, like if you want to see some of my work, I'm on IWTV, Action, etc., etc. Like there's a reason why these guys where you want to work. We brought it up, One Fall. Why would you want to work One Fall? Timing is everything. Being at the right place at the right time. Opportunities knock. Blah blah blah. So you can kind of see how. And at the end of the day, though, agree or disagree with me here. I always go. Just remember, it's our list. We're not saying it's the end all be all of list. List, by the way, lists are made and created to create conversation, discussion,
Yes.
debate, call it what you want to. But I generally think we, as a whole, when we have these conversations, there's a lot of thought as to why we pick these people. It's not just oh, this is our favorite, so that's what we pick.
Right. And a lot of times we come up with a topic and pick people in order to fill up the mailbag, in order for people to like, what in the world? Like we're trying to create buzz and conversation. We want more people talking about Georgia wrestling. And there have been, let's peel back the curtain. There have been multiple times when making these lists where we're like, hey, let's throw this one in. Let's just see what happens. Where it's not like, I mean, there's a little bit of work involved, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Typically not the Power Five, but the underrated. Yeah, they're like, and sometimes, by the way, if you haven't noticed, lists are geared. Like, go back a few minutes ago when we had the last one, like it was geared like we wanted to get some young, specific talent name out. Like, there's a reason. Like, hey, it wasn't like these are the most underrated guys in Georgia. We didn't say that. Young Gun Edition. It's young guys.
One of the reasons we split the shows is Georgia Wrestling Spotlight is we're reporting this show happened, this is who won, this is what's coming up, this is what's happening. Whereas the Tapped In show really has become who do we want to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who are the people who aren't getting buzz? Who are the people who really people may be missing the boat on? And so it's a lot of fun. And fans, we're so grateful that you're here with us every week, right here on YouTube, and the views have been great. We're so thankful for that. TappedOutPod.com is where it takes you right to the YouTube channel. But don't forget, you can become a patron. Patreon.com/tappedOutPod is where you can become a free member. You get the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight free every week. But hey, if you become a paid member, we're talking show notes. We're talking early access to shows. We're talking exclusive interviews. We're talking exclusive content. We're talking tapped out collectibles at the highest levels. It is one of the best values in wrestling. And we're appreciative of everybody who is supporting the show that way. Nick, any other final thoughts as we close up this edition?
No, make sure you're jumping over because there's only going to be a few shows this weekend, so we'll probably have a little more time to dive into the stuff that happened this past weekend, which is kind of cool. Like, that's what I stress to people. Like, those are the weeks you want to make sure you get your report stuff in because we're obviously going to have time. I think there's 3 shows to talk about. 2 of them will probably handle at the same time because they're running same promotion, same time, like we talked about, with one fall. So, and then of course, if you're, tomorrow the Tapped Out podcast will drop. Lots, and as you can probably guess, Night of Champions conversation and the Raw that followed, etc. But Night of Champions, lots of thoughts on that one, man. It was a hot topic for the last week. Let's leave it at that.
Yes, I am. I'm out of the loop on all of that, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you and Myron have to say on that. So, anyway, fans, thanks for listening. And even though there's not a lot of shows this weekend, the best way to support indie wrestling is by getting out and buying a ticket, and by listening to the Tapped Out podcast plethora of shows. But hopefully, one day this summer, we'll be at a show. And fans, we'll see you at the matches.